Hello, 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 hello. I'm gonna give you guys some time to get in here. Hey, Thati baby. How's your day been so far, Thati? I call you Thati. I refuse to say Tatiana. I'm gonna call you Thati from here on out. Oh yes, they better beware. Thati, they better beware. Aw, Thati. Okay, y'all. Y'all tell a friend, tell a kin, tell that fat pouton you can't stand. Tell them my book club is officially open. Ooh, Lord, this thunderstorm is killing me. Y'all tell that fat pouton my book club is open. And the book I'm starting with, I'm going to read the Twilight series in reverse. So I'm going to start with Breaking Dawn. I'm going to start with Breaking Dawn, the Twilight Saga. So I'm going to, give you guys a few time to tell people, tell a friend, tell a kin, people who actually like to read. I'm going to read this big, thick book to y'all. I'm going to read it to y'all. And this book has, page-wise, it has 756 pages. Hey, diving cuz. This book has 756 pages. But this is my favorite book out of the whole entire Twilight Saga. This is my favorite book. Because of all the vampires who come together, that sit up there, they battle the Volturi. And the vampires from different countries show off their powers and their attributes and their traits. A geek's favorite book. All shade aside, like, I don't like to throw shade, but like, I love reading. Like, I'm a nerd to my heart. I am a nerd. But when you drag me out that corner, I can be your worst enemy in a game of shade and reading. So, I'm going to one of my favorite things, which is reading. Somebody go get Trish in here. I don't care if it's just 3 people in here. I'm going to read this book. But y'all hold on. Like I said, this book has 756 pages in it. and I'm gonna get halfway through this book in no time. So I hope you guys, y'all ready for a nice, soothing, relaxing, calming feeling. I hope y'all ready to use your imaginations while I read this. But most importantly, I want you guys to enjoy yourselves and have fun. Even if you're working, have fun while I read this book. So before I start, I'm gonna read all the vampires that's in this story. The Vampire Index, alphabetically by Coven. The Amazon Coven, Kachiri, Cinna, and Zarafina. The Denali Coven, Eleazar, Carmen, Irina, Laurent, Kate, Sasha, Tanya, Vasily. The Egyptian Coven, Amun, Kibi, Benjamin, Tia. The Irish Coven, Maggie, Soipon, and Liam. The Olympic Coven, Carlisle, Esme, Edward, Bella, Jasper, Alice, Renesmee, Rosalie, and Emmett. The Romanian Coven, Stefan and Vladimir. The Volturi Coven, Arrow, Sulpicia, Cassius, Arthononia, Marcus, and Didymi. The Volturi Guard, Alec, Chelsea, Afton, Corinne, Dimitri, Felix, Heidi, Jane, Renata, Santiago. The American Nomads, Garrett, James, Victoria, Mary, Peter, Charlotte, Randall. The European Nomads, Alistar, Charles, and McKenna. Those are all the vampires that's in this book. So, without further ado, let's get this beautiful show on the road. Book 1, Bella. You guys excuse me, I'll be right back. I'm going to use the potty. Oh yeah, the chat is open. The chat is open. Y'all can have a side conversation while I'm reading. Do what y'all do. But I'm reading to y'all. Chapter 1, Book 1, Bella. Preface. These are all the chapters in Bella's book. Preface. Chapter 1, Engage. Chapter 2, The Long Night. Chapter 3, The Big Day. Chapter 4, Gesture. Chapter 5, Isle of Esme. Chapter 6, Distractions. Chapter 7, Unexpected. Childhood is not from birth. To a certain age, and at a certain age, the child is grown and puts away childish things. Childhood is the kingdom where nobody dies. Edna St. Vincent Millay. Preface. I'd had more than my fair share of near-death experiences. It wasn't something you ever really get used to. It seemed oddly inevitable, though. Facing death, like I really was, marked for disaster. I'd escaped time and time again, but it kept coming back for me. Still, this time was so different from the others. You could run from someone you feared. You could try to fight someone you hated. All my reactions were geared towards those kinds of killers, the monsters, the enemies. When you love the one who was killing you, it left you with no options. How could you run? How could you fight when doing so would hurt that beloved one? If your life was all you had to give your beloved, how could you not give it? If it was someone you truly loved. Chapter 1. Engaged. No one is staring at you. I promised myself, no one is staring at you. No one is staring at you. But because I couldn't lie convincingly, even to myself, I had to check. As I sat waiting for one of the 3 traffic lights in town to turn green, I peeked to the right. In her minivan, Miss Weber had turned her whole torso in my direction. Her eyes bored into mine, and I flinched back, wondering why she didn't drop her gaze or looked ashamed. And I flinched back, wondering, no. It was still considered rude to stare at people, wasn't it? Didn't that apply to me anymore? Then I remembered that these windows were so darkly tinted that she probably had no idea if it was even me in. Here. Let alone that I caught her looking, I tried to take some comfort in the fact that she wasn't really staring at me. Just the car. My car. Sighed. I glanced to the left and groaned. 2 pedestrians were frozen on the sidewalk, missing their chance to cross as they stared. Behind them, Mr. Marshall was gawking. Through the plated glass window of his little souvenir shop. At least he didn't have his nose pressed against the glass. Yet the light turned green, and I, in my hurry to escape, I stomped on the gas pedal without thinking. The normal way, I would have punched it to get my ancient Chevy truck moving. Engine snarling like a hunting panther. The car jolted forward so fast that my body slammed into the black leather seat and my stomach flattened against my spine. Ugh! I gasped as I fumbled for the brake. Keeping my head, merely tapped the pedal. The car lurched to an absolute standstill. Anyway, I couldn't bear to look around at the reaction. If there had been any doubt as to who was driving this car before, it was gone now. With the toe of my shoe, I gently nudged the gas pedal down 0.5 millimeter, and the car shot forward again. I managed to reach my goal, the gas station. If I hadn't been running on vapors, I wouldn't have come into town at all. I was going without a lot of things these days, like Pop-Tarts and shoelaces, to avoid spending time in public. Moving as if I were in a race. I got the hatch open, the cap off, the card scanned, the nozzle in the tank within seconds. Of course, there was nothing I could do to make the numbers on the gauge pick up the pace. They ticked away by sluggishly, almost as if they were doing it just to annoy me. If it wasn't bright out, a typical drizzly day in Forks, Washington, but I still felt like a spotlight was trained on me, drawing attention to the delicate ring on my left hand. At times, like this, sensing the eyes on my back, it felt like as if the ring was pulsing like a neon sign. Look at me. Look at me. It was stupid to be so self-conscious. And I knew that besides my dad and mom, did it really matter what people were saying about my engagement? About my new car? About my mysterious acceptance into an Ivy League college? About the shiny black credit card that felt red hot in my back pocket right now? Yeah, who cares what they think? I muttered under my breath. Miss, a man's voice called. I turned and then wished I hadn't. Two men stood beside a fancy SUV with brand new kayaks tied to the top. Neither of them was looking at me. They both were staring at my car. Personally, I didn't get it, but then I was just proud. I could distinguish between the symbols of Toyota, Ford, and Chevy. The car was glossy black, sleek, pretty. It was still just a car to me. Personally, oh, hold on. I'm sorry to bother you, but could you tell me what kind of car you're driving? The tall one asked. A Mercedes, right? Yes, the man said politely, while his shorter friend rolled his eyes at my answer. I know, but I was wondering. Hold up, wait. Queen Lewis, I'm reading Breaking Dawn, the Twilight Saga. Anyway, back to the book. Hold up, wait. Let me go back, because that just threw me off. I know, but I was wondering, are you driving a Mercedes Guardian? The man said the name with reverence. I had a feeling this guy would get along well with Edward Cullen, my fiance. There really was no getting around the truth that the wedding was just days away. They aren't supposed to be available in Europe yet, the man went on, let alone here. While his eyes traced the contours of my car, it didn't look much different from any other Mercedes sedan to me. But what I didn't know, I briefly contemplated my issues with words like fiancé, wedding, husband, etc. I just couldn't put it together in my head. On the one hand, I had been raised to cringe at the very thought of poofy white dresses and bouquets. But more than that, I just couldn't reconcile a staid, respectable, dud concept like husband with my concept of Edward. It was like casting an archangel as an accountant. I couldn't visualize him in any commonplace role. Like always, as soon as I started thinking about Edward, I was caught up in a dizzy spin of fantasies. The stranger had to clear his throat to get my attention. He was still waiting for an answer about the car's make and model. I don't know, I told him honestly. Do you mind if I take a picture with it? It took me a second to process that. Really? You want to take a picture with the car? Sure. Nobody's going to believe me if I don't get the proof. Okay, fine. I swiftly put away the nozzle, and crept into the front seat to hide while the enthusiastic Doug, a huge professional-looking camera out of his backpack. He and his friends took turns posing by the hood, and then they went to take pictures at the back end. I miss my truck, I whimpered to myself. Very, very convenient. Too convenient that my truck would wheeze its last wheeze just weeks after Edward and I had agreed to our lopsided compromise. One detail of which was that he be allowed to replace my truck when it passed on. Edward swore it was only to be expected. My truck had lived a long, full life and then expired of natural causes. According to him, and of course, I had no way to verify his story or to try to raise my truck from the dead on my own, my favorite mechanic. I stopped that thought cold, refusing to let it come to a conclusion. Instead, I listened to the men's voices outside, muted by the car walls. Went at it with a flamethrower in the online video. Didn't even pucker the paint. Of course not. You could roll a tank over this baby. Not much of a market for one over here. Designed for the Middle East diplomats, arms dealers, and drugs lord mainly. Thinking she's something. The short one asked in a softer voice. I ducked my head, cheeks flaming. Huh? The tall one said. Maybe. Can't imagine what you need missile-proof glass and 4,000 pounds of body armor for here. Must be headed somewhere more hazardous. Body armor. 4,000 pounds of body armor and missile-proof glass. Nice. What had happened to good old-fashioned bulletproof? Well, at least this made some sense. If you had a twisted sense of humor. It wasn't like I hadn't expected Edward to take advantage of our deal, to weigh it on his side so that he can give so much more than he would receive. I'd agreed that he could replace my truck when it needed replacing, not expecting the moment to come quite so soon. Of course, when I'd been forced to admit that the truck had become no more than a still life tribute to classic Chevys on my curb. I knew his idea of a replacement was probably going to embarrass me, make me the focus of stares and whispers. I'd been right about that part. But even in my darkest imaginings, I had not foreseen that he would get me 2 cars. The before car and the after car. He'd explain when I flipped out. This was just the before car. He told me it was a loaner and promised that he was returning after the wedding. It had all made absolutely no sense to me until now. Ha ha. Because I was so fragilely human, so accident prone, so much of a victim to my own dangerous bad luck. Apparently, I needed a tank-resistant car to keep me safe. Hilarious. I was sure he and his brothers had enjoyed the joke a bit behind my back. Or maybe, just maybe, a small voice whispered in my head, "It's not a joke, silly. Maybe he's really that worried about you. This wouldn't be the first time he's gone a little bit overboard trying to protect you." I sighed. I hadn't seen the after car yet. It was hidden under a sheet in the deepest corner of the Cullens garage. I knew most people would have peeked by now, but I really didn't want to know. Probably no body armor on that car because I wouldn't need it after the honeymoon. Virtually indestructible was just one of the many perks I was looking forward to. The best part about being a Cullen were not expensive cars and impressive credit cards. "Hey," the tall man called, cupping his hands in an effort to peer in. "We're done now. Thanks a lot." "You're welcome," I called back. Okay, and then tensed as I started the engine and eased the pedal ever so gently down. No matter how many times I drove down the familiar road home, I still couldn't make the rain-faded flyers fade into the background. Each one of them stapled to telephone poles and taped to street signs was like a fresh slap in the face, a well-deserved slap in the face. My mind was sucked back into the thought I'd interrupted so immediately before I couldn't avoid it on this road. Not with pictures or of my favorite mechanic flashing past me at regular intervals. My best friend Jacob. "They have seen this boy?" Posters were not Jacob's father. It had been my father, Charlie, who printed up the flyers and spread them all over town. And not just Force, but Port Angeles and Sequim and Hockwam and Aberdeen at the very other town in the Olympic Peninsula. He made sure that all the police stations in the state of Washington had the same flyer hanging on the wall too. His own station had a whole court board dedicated to finding Jacob. A court board that was mostly empty. Much to his disappointment and frustration, my dad was disappointed more the lack of a response. He was disappointed with Billy, Jacob's father, and Charlie's closest friend, for Billy's not being more involved with the search for his 16-year-old runaway, for Billy refusing to put up the flyers in La Push, the reservation on the coast that was Jacob's home, for his seeming resigned to Jacob's disappearance as if it was nothing he could do, for his saying, "Jacob's grown up now. He'll come home if he wants to." And he was frustrated with me for taking Billy's side. I wouldn't put up posters either because Billy and I knew where Jacob was, roughly speaking. And we also knew that no one had seen his boy. The flyers put up the usual big fat lump in my throat. the usual stinging tears in my eyes, and I was glad Edward was out hunting this Saturday. If Edward saw my reaction, it would only make him feel terrible too. Of course, there were drawbacks to it being Saturday. As I turned slowly and carefully onto my street, I could see my dad's police cruiser in the driveway of our home. He skipped fishing again today, still sulking about the wedding. So I wouldn't be able to use the phone inside, but I had to call. I parked on the curb behind the Chevy sculpture and pulled the cell phone Edward had given me for emergencies out of the glove compartment. I dialed, keeping my finger on the end button. As the phone rang, just in case, hello, Seth Clearwater answered, and I sighed in relief. I was way too chicken to speak to his older sister, Leah. The phrase, bite my head off, was not entirely a figure of speech when it came to Leah. Hey Seth, it's Bella. Oh, hiya Bella, how are you? Choked up, desperate for reassurance, I'm fine. Calling for an update? You're psychic? Not hardly. I'm no Alice. You're just predictable. He joked. Among the Quillette pack down at La Pouche, only Seth was comfortable even mentioning the Cullens by name, let alone joking about things like my nearly omniscient sister-in-law to be. I know I am, I hesitated for a moment. How is he? Seth sighed. Same as ever. He won't talk. Though we know he hears us, he's trying not to think human. You know, just going with his instincts. Do you know where he is now? Somewhere in northern Canada. I can't tell you which province. He doesn't pay attention to the state lines. Any hint that he might? He's not coming home, Bella. Sorry. I swallowed. It's okay, Seth. I knew before I asked. I just couldn't help wishing. Yeah, we all feel the same way. Thanks for putting up with me, Seth. I know the others must give you a hard time. They're not your hugest fans, he agreed cheerfully. Kind of lame, I think. Jacob made his choice, you made yours. Jake doesn't like your attitude about it. Of course, he isn't super thrilled that you're checking up on him either. I gasped. He wasn't even talking to you. He can't hide everything from us, hard as he's trying, so Jacob knew I was worried. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Well, at least he knew I skipped off into the sunset and forgotten about him completely. He might have imagined me capable of that. I guess I'll see you at the wedding, I said, forcing the word out through my teeth. Yeah, me and Mom will be there. It was cool of you to ask us. I smiled at the enthusiasm in his voice, though inviting the Clearwaters had been Edward's idea. I was glad he thought of it. Having Seth there would be nice. A link, however tenuous, to my missing best man. It wouldn't be the same without you. Tell Edward I said hi, okay? Sure thing. I shook my head. The friendship that had sprung up between Bella and Seth was something that still boggled my mind. It was proof, though, that things didn't have to be this way, that vampires and werewolves could get along just fine. Thank you very much. If they were of a mind to... Not everybody likes this idea. Ah, Seth, I said, his voice cracking up an octave. Leah's home. Oh, bye. The phone went dead. I left it on the seat and prepared myself mentally to go inside the house where Charlie would be waiting. My poor dad had so much to deal with right now. Jacob, the runaway, was just one of the straws on his overburdened back. He was almost as worried about me, his barely a legal adult daughter, who was about to become a Mrs. in just a few days' time. I walked slowly through the rain, remembering the night we told him. As the sounds of Charlie's cruiser announced his return, the ring suddenly weighed 100 pounds on my finger. I wanted to shove my left hand in a pocket or maybe sit on it. But Edward's cool, calm, firm grasp kept it front and center. Stop fidgeting, Bella. Please try to remember that you're not confessing to a murder here. Easy for you to say. I listened to the ominous sound of my father's boots clomping up the sidewalk. The key rattled in the already open door. The sound reminded me of that part of the horror movie when the victim realizes she's forgotten to lock her deadbolt. Calm down, Bella, Edward whispered to me, accelerating my heart rate. The door slammed against the wall. I flinched like I'd been tasered. Hey, Charlie, Edward called out, entirely relaxed. No, I protested under my breath. What? Edward whispered back. Wait till he hangs his gun up. Edward chuckled, and his free hand through his tousled bronze hair. Charlie came around the corner still, his uniform still on, and tried not to make a face when he spied us sitting together on the love seat. Lately, he'd been putting forth a lot of effort to like Edward more. Of course, this revelation was sure to end that effort immediately. Hey kids, what's up? We'd like to talk to you, Edward said, so serene. We have some good news. Charlie's expression went from strained friendliness to black suspicion in a second. Good news, Charlie growled, looking straight at me. Have a seat, Dad. He raised one eyebrow, stared at me for 5 seconds, then stumped to the recliner and sat at the very edge, his back ramrod straight. Dad, don't get worked up. Dad, I said after a moment of loaded silence. Everything's okay. Edward grimaced, and I knew it was in objection to the word okay. He probably would have used something more like wonderful or perfect or glorious. Sure it is, Bella. Sure it is. If everything is so great, then Why are you sweating bullets? Thank you, Diving. Thank you. I'm not sweating, I lied. I leaned away from his fierce scowl, cringing into Edward, and instinctively wiped the back of my right hand across my forehead to remove the evidence. You're pregnant! Charlie exploded. You're pregnant, aren't you? Though the question was clearly meant for me, he was glaring at Edward now. I could have sworn I was his twitch towards the gun. No, of course I'm not. I wanted to elbow Edward in his ribs, but I knew that move would give me a bruise. I told Edward that people would immediately jump to this. Conclusion. What other possible reason would sane people have for getting married at 18? His answer then had me roll my eyes. Love, right? Charlie's glower lightened a shade. It was usually pretty clear on my face when I was telling the truth, and he believed me now. Oh, sorry. Apology accepted. There was a long pause. After a moment, I realized everyone was waiting for me to say something. I looked up at Edward, panic-stricken. There was no way I was going to get the words out. He smiled at me, then squared his shoulders and turned to my father. Charlie, I realized that I've gone about this out of order. Traditionally, I should have asked you first. I mean no disrespect, but since Bella has already said yes, and I don't want to diminish her choice in the matter, instead of asking you for her hand, I'm asking you for your blessing. We're getting married, Charlie. I love her more than anything in the world, more than my own life. And by some miracle, she loves me that way too. Will you give us your blessing? He sounded so sure, so calm for just an instant, listening to the absolute confidence in his voice. I experienced a rare moment of insight. I can see fleetingly the way the world looked at him for a length of one heartbeat. This news made perfect sense. And then I caught sight of the expressions on Charlie's face, his eyes now locked on the ring. I held my breath while his skin changed colors, fair to red to purple to blue. I started to get up. I'm not sure what I plan to do. Maybe use the Heimlich maneuver to make sure he wasn't choking, but Edward squeezed my hand and murmured, "Give him a second." So low that only I could hear. The silence was much longer this time. Then, gradually, shade by shade, Charlie's colors returned to normal. His lips pursed, his eyebrows furrowed. I recognized his deep in thought expression. He studied the two of us for a long moment, and I felt Edward relax at my side. Guess I'm not surprised, Charlie grumbled. Knew would have to deal with something like this soon enough. I exhaled. You sure about this? Charlie demanded, glaring at me. I'm 100% sure about Edward. I told him without missing a beat. Getting married, though. What's the rush? He eyed me suspiciously again. The rush was due to the fact that I was getting closer to 19 every stinking day. Hold up, you guys. Hold up, wait. Hold up, wait. I gotta use the bathroom, and I'm going to warm me up something to eat. Y'all, hold on. So we taking a break. We taking a break. All right. All right. Okay. I left off at I was getting closer to 19 every stinking day. Okay. So, while Edward stayed frozen in all his 17-year-old perfection, as he had for over 90 years. Not that this fact necessitated marriage in my book, but the wedding was required due to the delicate and tangled compromise Edward and I had made to finally get to this point. The brink of my transformation from mortal to immortal. These were things I could explain to Charlie. These weren't things I could explain to Charlie. We're going away to Dartmouth together in the fall, Charlie. Edward reminded him. I like to do that well, the right way. It's how I was raised, he shrugged. He wasn't exaggerating that they'd been big on old-fashioned morals during World War I. Charlie's mouth twisted to the side, looking for an angle to argue from. But what could he say? I prefer you live in sin first. He was a dad. His hands were tied. Knew this was coming, he muttered to himself, frowning. Then suddenly his face went perfectly smooth and blank. Dad? I asked anxiously. I glanced at Edward, but I couldn't read his face either as he watched Charlie. Ha! Charlie exploded. I jumped in my seat. Ha 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 ha! I stared incredulously as Charlie doubled over in laughter. His whole body shook with it. I looked at Edward for a translation, but Edward had his lips pressed tightly together. Whew. Like he was trying to hold back laughter himself. Okay, fine, Charlie chopped out. Getting married. Another roll of laughter shook through him. But what? I demanded. But you have to tell your mom. I'm not saying one word to Renee. That's all yours. He busted into loud guffaws. I paused with my hand on the doorknob, smiling. Sure, at that time, Charlie's words had terrified me. The ultimate doom. Telling Renee early marriage was higher up on her blacklist than boiling live puppies. Who could have foreseen her response? Not me. Certainly not Charlie. Maybe Alice. But I hadn't thought to ask her. Well, Bella, Renee had said after I choked out and stuttered out the impossible words, Mom, I'm marrying Edward. I'm a little miffed that you waited so long to tell me. Plane tickets only get more expensive. Oh, she said. Do you think Phil's cast will be off by then? It will spoil the pictures if he's not in a tub. Back up a second, Mom, I gasped. What do you mean, waited so long? I just got I've been unable to force out the word engaged. Things settled, today. Today, really? This is a surprise, I assumed. What did you assume? When did you assume? Well, you came to visit me in April. It looked like things were pretty much sewn up. If you know what I mean. You're not very hard to read, sweetie. But I didn't say anything because I knew it wouldn't do any good. You're exactly like Charlie. She sighed, resigned. Once you make up your mind, there's no reasoning with you. Of course, exactly like Charlie. You stick to your decisions too. And then she said the last thing I've ever expected to hear from a mother. You're not making my mistakes, Bella. You sound like you're scared silly, and I'm guessing it's because you're afraid of me. She giggled. Of course, I'm going to think, and I know I've said a lot of things about marriage and stupidity, and I'm not taking them back, but you need to realize those things specifically apply to me. You're a completely different person than I am. You make your own kinds of mistakes, and I'm sure you'll have your share of regrets in life, but commitment was never your problem, sweetie. You have a better chance of making this work than most 40-year-olds I know. Renee laughed again. My little middle-aged child. Luckily, you seem to have found another soul. You're not mad? You don't think I'm making a humongous mistake? Well, sure. I wish you wait a few more years. I mean, do I look old enough to be a mother-in-law to you? Don't answer that. But this isn't about me. This is about you. Are you happy? I don't know. I'm having an out-of-body experience right now. Renee had chuckled. Does he make you happy, Bella? Yes, but are you ever going to want anyone else? No, but what? But aren't you going to say that I sound exactly like every other infatuated teenager since the dawn of time? You've never been a teenager, sweetie. You know what's best for you. For the last few weeks, Renee had unexpectedly immersed herself in wedding plans. She spent hours every day on the phone with Edward's mother, Esme. No worries about the in-laws getting along. Renee adored Esme. But then I doubted anyone could help responding that way to my lovable, almost mother-in-law. It let me right off the hook. Edward's family and my family were taking care of the nuptials together without my having to do or know or think too hard about any of it. Charlie was furious, of course, but that sweet part was that he wasn't furious at me. Renee was the traitor. He counted on her to play the heavy. What could he do now when his ultimate threat, telling mom, had turned out to be utterly empty? He had nothing and he knew it, so he moped around the house, muttering things about not being able to trust anyone in this world. Dad, I called as I pushed open the front door. I'm home. Hold on, Bells. Stay right there. Huh? I paused. Automatically. Give me a second. Ouch! You got me, Alice. Alice? Sorry, Charlie. Alice's thrilling voice responded. How's that? I'm bleeding on it. You're fine. Didn't break the skin. Trust me. What's going on? I demanded, hesitating in the doorway. 30 seconds, please, Bella. Alice told me. Your patience will be rewarded. Charlie added. I tapped my foot, counting each beat before I got to 30. Alice said, okay, Bella, come in. Moving with caution, I rounded the little corner into our living room. I huffed. Oh, Dad, don't you look? Silly, Charlie interrupted. I was thinking more like debonair. Charlie blushed. Alice took his elbow and tugged him into a slow spin to showcase the pale gray tux. Now cut that out, Alice. I look like an idiot. No one dressed by me ever looks like an idiot. She's right, Dad. You look fabulous. What's the occasion? Alice rolls her eyes. It's the final check on the fit for both of you. I peeled my gaze off unusually elegant Charlie for the first time and saw the dreaded white garment bag laid carefully across the sofa. Go to your happy place, Bella. It won't take long. I sucked in a deep breath and closed my eyes, keeping them shut. I stumbled my way up the stairs to my room. I stripped down to my underwear, held my arms straight out. You think I was shoving bamboo splinters under your nails, Alice muttered to herself as she followed me. I paid no attention to her. I was in my happy place. In my happy place, the whole wedding mess was over and done behind me, already repressed and forgotten. Okay, hold up, wait. Oh, my food, shoot! Y'all hold on. Okay. Okay. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I'm about to get back to it. Hold on. Okay. I see where we at. Okay. Already repressed and forgotten, we were alone, just Edward and me. The setting was fuzzy and constantly in flux. It morphed from misty forest to cloud-covered city to Arctic night. Because Edward was keeping the location of our honeymoon a secret to surprise me. But I wasn't especially concerned about the where part. Edward and I were together, and I fulfilled my side of our compromise perfectly. I married him, that was the big one. But I also accepted all his outrageous gifts and was registered. However, futilely, to attend Dartmouth College in the fall, now it was his turn. Before he could turn me into a vampire, his big compromise, he had one other stipulation to make good on. Edward had an obsessive sort of concern over the human things that I would be giving up, the experiences he didn't want me to miss. Most of them, like prom, for example, seemed silly to me. That was only one human experience I worried about missing. Of course, it wouldn't be the one he wished I would forget completely. Here was the thing though. I knew a little about what I was going to be like when I wasn't human anymore. I'd seen newborn vampires firsthand. And I heard all about my family to be stories about those wild early days. For several years, my biggest personality trait was going to be thirsty. It would take some time before I could be me again. And even when I was in control of myself, I would never feel exactly the way I felt now. Human and passionately in love. I wanted the complete experience before I traded in my warm, breakable, pheromone-riddled body for something beautiful, strong, and unknown. I wanted a real honeymoon with Edward. And despite the dangers he feared that would put me in, he agreed to try. Child, y'all know what she mean when she said she want a honeymoon, right? Y'all know what she mean when she said she want a honeymoon, right? We taking a quick shade break real quick. Y'all know what she meant, right? Even though it's gonna put her in danger, right? Y'all know what she meant, right? Oh, thank you, Tisa, baby. I'm reading a book, so this replay gonna be kind of long. All right, let's go. Now, where was I? Chapter 2, Long Night. Okay, you guys, we've read 23 pages so far. We've read 23 pages so far. So we are in chapter 2 right now. Once I finish stuffing my face, I'm gonna start. Oh, crud. I just thought about something. I got a whole bunch of food. I could turn this into a mukbang while I'm reading this book. Hold on. Independent Tisa, you better. Like, I'm reading this book. Like, I'm on chapter 2 already. I'm going to stop halfway somewhere, like, where it's all juicy and whatnot. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to leave y'all on a cliffhanger. But hold up, wait. Let me go get all my food. Hold on. All right. Let's start chapter 2, you guys. Let's start chapter 2. Chapter 2, The Long Night. I miss you already. Hold up, wait. Let me adjust my voice. Let me adjust my voice for y'all. Because this is in italics. Oh, no, Tisa, baby. Don't do that. Participate in the chat. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Chapter 2, The Long Night. I miss you already. I don't need to leave. I can stay. It was quiet for a long moment. Just the thud of my heart hammering, the broken rhythm of our ragged breathing, and the whisper of our lips moving in synchronization. Sometimes it was not easy to forget that I was kissing a vampire. Not because he seemed ordinary or human. I could never, for a second, forget that I was holding someone more angel than man in my arms. But because he made it seem like nothing at all to have his lips against my lips, my face, my throat, he claimed he was long past the temptation. My blood used to be for him. The idea of losing me had cured him of any desire for it. But I knew the smell of my blood still caused him pain, still burned his throat like he was inhaling flames. I opened my eyes and found his open too, staring at my face. It made no sense when he looked at me that way, like I was the prize rather than the outrageously lucky winner. Our gazes locked for a moment. His golden eyes were so deep that I imagine that I can see all the way into his soul. It seemed so silly that this fact, the existence of his soul, had ever been in question, even if he was a vampire. He had the most beautiful soul, more beautiful than his brilliant mind, or his incomparable face, or his glorious body. That body. Look at that body. Look at that body. Let me stop, y'all. Let me finish this story. He looked back at me as if he could see my soul, too, and as if he liked what he saw. He couldn't see into my mind, though, the way he saw into everyone else's. Who knew I? Some strange glitch in my brain that made it immune to all the extraordinary and frightening things some immortals could do? Only my mind was immune. My body was still a subject to vampires with abilities that worked in other ways than Edward's. But I was seriously grateful to whatever malfunction it was that kept my thoughts a secret. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm about to get back to it. Oh shit, wait. Child, I hate this. Okay, it was just too embarrassing to consider the alternative. I pulled his face to mine. Definitely staying, he murmured a moment longer. No, it's your bachelor party. You have to go. I said the words, but the fingers on my right hand locked into his bronze hair. My left pressed tighter in the small of his back. His cool hand stroked my face. Bachelor parties are designed for those who are sad to see the passing of their single days. I could be more eager to have mine behind me, so there's really no point, true. I breathed against the winter cold skin of his throat. This was pretty close to my happy place. Charlie slept obliviously in his room, which was almost as good as being alone. We were curled up on the small bed, intertwined as much as it was possible, considering the 5th Afghan I was swathed in like a cocoon. I hated the necessity of the blanket, but it sort of ruined the romance when my teeth started chattering. Charlie would notice if I had turned the heat on in August, at least if I had to be bundled up. Edward's shirt was on the floor. I never got over the shock of how perfect his body was. White, cool, polished as marble. I ran my hand down his stone chest now, tracing across the flat plains of his stomach, just marveling at a light shudder rippled through him, and his mouth find mine again. I let the tip of my tongue press against his glass smooth lip, and he sighed. His sweet breath washed cold and delicious over my face. He started to pull away. That was his automatic response when he decided that that he decided that things had gone too far. His reflex reaction whenever he most wanted to keep going. Edward had spent most of his life rejecting any kind of physical gratification. I knew it was terrifying to him trying to change those habits. Now, wait, I said, gripping his shoulders and hugging myself close to him. I kicked one leg free and wrapped it around his waist. Practice makes perfect. He chuckled. Well, we should be fairly close to perfection. By this point, then, shouldn't we? Have you slept at all the last month? By this, hold up, wait, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. By this is the dress rehearsal, I reminded him. And we've only practiced certain scenes. It's no time for playing safe. I thought he would laugh. But he didn't answer, and his body was motionless with a sudden stress. The gold in his eyes seemed to harden from a liquid to a solid. I thought over my words, realized what we had heard in them. Bella, he whispered, don't start this again. I said, a deal is a deal. I don't know. It's too hard to concentrate when you're with me like this. I can't think straight. I won't be able to control myself. You will get hurt. I'll be fine. Bella. I pressed my lips to his to stop his panic attack. I heard it before. He wasn't getting out of this deal. Not after insisting I marry him first. He kissed me back for a moment, but I can tell he wasn't as into it as before. Worrying, always worrying how different it would be when he didn't need to worry about me anymore. What would he do with all his free time? He'd have to get a new hobby. How are your feet? He asked. Knowing he didn't mean that literally, I answered, toasty warm. Really? No second thoughts? It's not too late to change your mind. Are you trying to ditch me? He chuckled. Just making sure. I don't want you to do anything you're not sure about. I'm sure about you. The rest I can live through. He hesitated, and I wondered if I put my foot in my mouth again. Can you? He asked quietly. I don't mean the wedding, which I'm positive you will survive despite your qualms. But afterward, what about Renee? What about Charlie? I sighed. I'll miss them. Worse, that they would miss me, but I didn't want to give him any fuel. Angela and Ben and Jessica and Mike. I'll miss my friends too. I smiled in the darkness, especially Mike. Oh, Mike, how will I go on? He growled. I laughed, but then was serious. Edward, we've been through this and through this. I know it will be hard, but this is what I want. I want you. And I want you forever, One lifetime is simply not enough for me. Frozen forever at 18, he whispered. Every woman's dream come true. I surely am, just Diana. This channel is for the book club. It got a whole bunch of things I'm doing. But this, right now, I'm in book club time. Now, hold up, wait. I gotta go use the party. If you don't like to be read to, deuces. This page, like, okay, I don't know if you've been following me, Tayana. I don't know if you've been following me, but like, I have another platform. The other platform is for shade. But this right here is my business platform. I'm taking this platform and I'm turning it from a negative into a positive. So like this reading, I've read 27 pages, which is 2 chapters in this book. This book is 700 and something pages long. So let's have some fun, y'all. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. Look at the ball. Look at the ball. Okay. Okay, darling. Okay. 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 I'm sorry if I came off too strong. So you guys, I'm stopping at page 27. I've read 4,000 words so far. And yes, I keep count of all the words I read. Told y'all, the side of me y'all don't know, I'm a geek. I don't have a bookmarker, so I'm using some money as a bookmarker. So, what we about to do is, we about to end this live, and I'm gonna start another one. But as a matter of fact, I need to go on my other platform. Yolanda, give me a couple hours, well not a couple hours, like give me a couple minutes. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Cause like I need to eat, my food getting cold, all my food getting cold. Like I got a lot of food I gotta eat. And I don't want it to get cold, cause cold food is yucky. But Tiana, I read all the books, but Breaking Dawn is my favorite book by Stephanie Myers out of the Twilight saga. My favorite coven of the vampires are the Egyptian vampires. My favorite vampire is Benjamin. Tiana, you gotta have an imagination. That's why I'm reading the books to y'all. Like, just listen to me, And you know, you use your imagination while I'm reading. But Benjamin, in the books, they make Benjamin sound so sexy. The way they describe him is like, oh God. Like if you could actually just jump in the pages of the book, you would be like, come here, come here, come here. Just come here, just come here, just come here. And one of the reasons why I like the Egyptian, Benjamin is the Egyptian vampire that can control all the elements: water, wind, fire, earth. If you watch the Twilight movie, when they had the fight with the Volturi, and Alice showed Alice showed the head person of the Volturi what their future was gonna be if they started a fight with the Cullens. Benjamin was the one who punched the ground, and the ground opened up, and flames started showing at the bottom. Benjamin was so sexy. In the books, child, he got skin like mine. I'm like, but why y'all got this person who played him looking like this? And Nawel is the Native American Indian that came from South America with his aunt. His mother was human. No, he wasn't in Edward family. He wasn't in Edward family. Hold up, wait. Well, no, I already got the book closed, and I don't want to spoil it for nobody else. Hold up, wait. I'm gonna go get my iPad, and I'm gonna show you Benjamin. Look at that bald head. Look at that bald head. This is Benjamin. He making a tornado in his hand right now. That's Benjamin. Let me find a clip on YouTube. But Nawel is big. Nawel is like Bella's daughter. That's him when Bella's daughter touching his face, and she's showing him everything she been through since she was born. But let me show y'all Noel. Baby, I don't know how they found this person to play Noel, the South American half human, half vampire hybrid. But darling, this is Noel, the South American half human, half vampire hybrid. I'm gonna show you her daughter. Hold up, wait. That's her daughter. That's Renesmee. That's the baby. That's the baby that Edward and Bella had. This is the Breaking. Noel was in Breaking Dawn. He was the one that saved all the vampires. He can eat human food and he can drink blood. He became a full-fledged adult at the age of 16. Whoo! Wait! Oh, I can't spill this tea to y'all. I can't spill this tea. It's about the movie. I'm a big Twilight fan. So the new movie from Twilight is gonna be called Summer Moon, Summer Sun, something like that, or Midnight Moon. I mean Midnight Sun. I'm sorry. It's Midnight Sun, and ah, reading this right here. What I'm reading. My babe Noel. I'm about to tell you right now. Hold up, wait. There is no release date, but it comes out this year. It comes out this year, but there's no release date. I'm looking for one right now. Yolanda, I will be reading this book for a while. But y'all, let me go. There's a few things I need to do real quick. I'll be back in like 30 minutes, you guys. So y'all just hold on.